On November 11, 1926, a new line appeared on the American map. 2,448 miles, Chicago to Santa Monica, threading through 8 states. They called it US Highway 66. Nobody had any idea it would become the most famous road in the world. But here's the thing, before Route 66 existed, crossing America by car was a nightmare. We're talking disconnected dirt trails, unmarked paths, roads that changed names every time you crossed a state line. There was no continuous route. There was no guarantee you'd make it. Route 66 changed that. For the first time, the drive was actually possible. And so people drove. The first great wave came in the 1930s. The Dust Bowl devastated Oklahoma, Texas, and Kansas. Farms destroyed, land dead. Hundreds of thousands of families loaded everything they owned onto battered trucks and followed the highway west toward California and the promise of work. John Steinbeck watched them go. He called Route 66 the Mother Road, the Road of Flight. The name stuck forever. Then World War II. Then the post-war boom. The migrants were replaced by families on vacation. The beat-up trucks were replaced by gleaming Chevrolets. Americans had money, gasoline, and a hunger to see their country. Route 66 was exactly where they wanted to be, and along every mile of it, towns came alive. Now, here's what you have to understand. These weren't just towns that happened to be near a highway. They were built because of it, from nothing, by real families who saw a road and made a bet. Take Amboy, California. This is a speck of civilization sitting in the middle of the Mojave Desert, 65 miles from the nearest town of any size. Summer temperatures hit 115 degrees. There is a volcanic crater nearby. There is nothing out here. That was never going to stop anybody. In 1938, a man named Roy Crowell opened a gas station. His son-in-law, a guy named Buster Burris, joined the operation and started expanding. Cafe, motel, auto repair, the works. When Burris decided Amboy needed electricity and found out the nearest power line was 65 miles away, he didn't complain. He bought an old Studebaker pickup truck, drove out into the desert, and erected his own utility poles from Barstow all the way to town. By hand. By the 1950s, Amboy had 700 residents and employed 70 people. The iconic Roy's neon sign went up in 1959. You've seen it, everyone has. That is what Route 66 did to people. That kind of stubborn, magnificent determination. Then there's Glen Rio, sitting exactly on the Texas-New Mexico state line. Texas was dry, so all the bars went on the New Mexico side. New Mexico's fuel tax was higher, so the gas stations were on the Texas side. Mail arrived on the Texas side, got carried to the post office on the New Mexico side. The town ran 2 completely separate legal codes on the same block. Same street, 2 different Americas. And in Jericho, Texas, locals allegedly watered the unpaved road themselves to keep cars stuck in the mud, then charged travelers for the tow-out. Nobody ever proved it. Nobody was entirely surprised either. Route 66 didn't just carry people west, it created an entire world along the way. And that world was about to get very, very complicated. The man who destroyed Route 66 was a war hero who meant well. Dwight Eisenhower crossed America by army convoy in 1919. The roads were terrible. Convoys moved at walking pace. The whole experience left him shaken. America's infrastructure wasn't just inconvenient, it was a genuine liability. Then, as Supreme Allied Commander in World War II, he drove the German Autobahn. Hitler's vast network of divided highways. Fast, wide, efficient. He never forgot it. So when Eisenhower became president, he had a mission. And in 1956, Congress passed the Federal Aid Highway Act. 5 new interstates, I-55, I-44, I-40, I-15, and I-10 would gradually replace Route 66 over the following 3 decades. Wider, faster, divided, modern. Here's something most people don't know. The interstate system wasn't just built for convenience. It was designed partly for nuclear war. The highways were built wide enough to land military aircraft. They were engineered to evacuate major American cities in the event of a Soviet atomic strike. The death warrant for thousands of small towns was signed, at least partly in the name of nuclear preparedness. But here's the real difference between Route 66 and the interstates. Route 66 ran straight down Main Street, past the diner, past the motel, past the gas station and the trading post. If you were hungry or tired or low on fuel, the town was right there. The interstates swept past miles away on elevated ramps, with exits dropping you into standardized chain facilities built for speed, not character. The towns in between weren't communities to be served. They were inconveniences to be routed around. The transition didn't happen overnight. Through the 1960s and 70s, towns watched the bypasses inch closer. Business owners held on. Communities lobbied hard for favorable interchange locations. Some won, most lost. And when the bypass finally opened, the effect was immediate. Buster Burris of Amboy described it simply. It was like somebody put a gate across Route 66. The traffic just plain stopped. That very first day, it went from almost bumper to bumper to about half a dozen cars. One day, the end of a town's livelihood in a single day. Multiply that by hundreds of towns across 8 states in 3 decades. Motels close. Diners shutter. Gas stations go bankrupt. Communities that took generations to build, gone almost overnight. It's systematic, it's relentless, it's brutal. On October 13, 1984, Williams, Arizona became the last town on Route 66 to be bypassed. Williams waged years of lawsuits against the bypass. When the bulldozers finally won, residents threw a defiant wake on the new interstate itself, with horses, hot dogs, and Bobby Troop performing Route 66 on a piano in the middle of the road. Then on June 27, 1985, with almost no ceremony, U.S. Route 66 was officially removed from the U.S. highway system. The signs came down, the maps were updated, the mother road ceased to exist. By the end of the 1980s, an estimated 3,000 motels lay crumbling along the former route. 3,000 family businesses. The places where Dust Bowl refugees had slept, where post-war families had eaten pie on summer road trips, where honeymooners had stayed in little desert cabins. Now slowly dissolving back into the earth. The highway was dead, but the towns were still there, and their stories were just getting started. So the highway is dead. The bypasses are open. The traffic is gone. What's left behind? Let's go town by town. 2 Guns, Arizona. Population today, 0. And honestly, this place was cursed long before Route 66 ever came through. Long before the highway existed, this stretch of Arizona Canyon country was the site of an ancient massacre. Apache warriors had been raiding Navajo settlements, kidnapping hostages, retreating into the desert. The Navajo tracked them to a hidden cave system on the rim of Canyon Diablo. When they discovered their captives had been killed, they blocked the cave's narrow entrance with wood and branches and set it on fire. Everyone inside died. The cave became known as the Apache Death Cave. The bones were still in there when the highway arrived. Into this cheerful landscape came Harry Miller, Spanish-American war veteran. Self-described Apache. He was not Apache. He was an East Coast eccentric who simply decided to become a Wild West character and refused to break character under any circumstances. He cleaned out the death cave and sold the skulls inside as souvenirs. He built a roadside zoo with mountain lions, Gila monsters, and coral snakes in cages made of brick and chicken wire. He opened a restaurant. He named the whole town 2 Guns. Then his life became the strangest attraction of all. 1926. Bitten on the nose by his own Gila monster. The story went national. 1927. He shot his landlord dead in a property dispute and was acquitted. 1928. Mauled by one of his own mountain lions. 2 Guns was the most accident-prone address in America. I-40 bypassed it. The visitors stopped. Miller died broke in California. Today, the ruins of the zoo still stand. The death cave is still there. Thousands of photographers and urban explorers visit every year, drawn by a darkness no interstate could ever fully bypass. Glen Rio, Texas, and New Mexico. Population today, approximately 1. And this town has always been defined by the accident of its geography. Glen Rio sits precisely on the state line. Texas side, dry county, no alcohol. New Mexico side, no problem. So all the bars were on the New Mexico side of the street. New Mexico's fuel tax was higher, so all the gas stations were on the Texas side. Same town, two legal realities, same block. And here's the detail that makes it perfect. The Texas side runs on Central Time. The New Mexico side runs on Mountain Time. You could move forward or backward an hour just by crossing the street. I-40 bypassed Glen Rio in 1973. By the 1980s, 2 residents remained. Today, there's 1. But here's the twist. Recreational marijuana was legalized in New Mexico in 2022. It's still illegal in Texas. A dispensary has opened on the New Mexico side of the line. The ghost town with 1 resident is running the exact same legal loophole it ran with alcohol in the 1930s. Some places never change their tricks. Then there's Times Beach, Missouri. And this one is different. Every other town on Route 66 was killed by the interstate. Times Beach was poisoned. 2,000 residents. Normal American lives. In the 1970s, town officials sprayed the unpaved streets with waste oil to control dust. Standard practice. Cheap. Effective. Nobody thought twice. The oil contained dioxin, one of the most toxic compounds known to science, sprayed on every street, every year, for years. The EPA confirmed the contamination in 1982. The town was evacuated, then demolished in 1985. The same year, Route 66 was officially decommissioned. The soil was incinerated on site. The land wasn't declared safe again until 2001. 16 years later. Today it's a state park. 1 building survived, the town did not. And finally, Cuervo, New Mexico. Most ghost towns were bypassed by the interstate. Cuervo had a different fate. The interstate didn't go around it, it went straight through it. Engineers ran I-40 directly through the town's footprint, physically splitting the community in 2 with a slab of concrete. 2 churches on opposite sides of a highway nobody in Cuervo ever wanted. 4 towns. Just 4 of the many different towns that were affected by the interstate, all showing different ways a road can kill a community. So here's the paradox. Route 66 was officially declared dead in 1985. It has spent the 40 years since becoming more famous than it ever was when it was alive. And the ghost towns it left behind? Some of them are coming back, in ways nobody predicted. Here's how that happened. At first it was Americans, nostalgists who wanted to see what was left, who wanted to drive the old road, eat in the surviving diners, photograph the rusted signs, and crumbling motel canopies before they disappeared entirely. That was the first wave. Then something unexpected happened. The Europeans showed up. Then the Japanese, then Australians. Then tourists from countries that Route 66's founders had never heard of. People flying across the world specifically to drive a road that no longer officially exists. The highway built to connect American cities became an international pilgrimage destination. And those visitors spent money. Ate in the remaining diners, stayed in the surviving motels, bought the postcards. Communities figured something out. Route 66 is more valuable as heritage than it ever was as a highway. The recognition became official. In December 2020, the Route 66 Centennial Commission Act was signed into law, establishing a federally appointed body to coordinate the road's 100th anniversary celebrations. Oklahoma, which contains more drivable miles of original Route 66 than any other state, invested $6.6 million in revitalization grants for small businesses, museums, and preservation projects along the corridor. The National Trust for Historic Preservation listed Route 66 communities among America's most endangered historic places, not to mark them for loss, but to mobilize funding for their survival. And the towns themselves? Their stories are still moving. Amboy, California, 0 permanent residents. But Roy's neon sign was refurbished and relit in November 2019, after 30 years of darkness. It glows every night now, visible for miles across the desert floor. The centennial year of 2026 is the target for a full cafe and motel reopening. A town with nobody living in it is getting ready to welcome the world. Glen Rio is under active redevelopment. In one of the stranger revival stories on the whole road, a couple who met on a dating app purchased 16 acres with plans to turn the ghost town into a road trip destination. The town that has always survived on legal loopholes may have found its next one. Texola, Oklahoma, sitting on the Texas border with 43 residents, is technically gaining population. Barely, but gaining. And here's the twist. Its crumbling storefronts and empty streets have become the attraction. The very abandonment that Route 66 created is now the reason people make the detour to see it. The ghost town is thriving specifically because it looks like a ghost town. And Funk's Grove, Illinois has been making maple syrup since 1824. The train stopped. Route 66 came and went. The interstate bypassed the town. The Funk family still taps the sugar maples every spring, still spells it syrup, and will not be persuaded otherwise. Some things simply refuse to stop. Route 66 is 100 years old in 2026. The interstate system that killed it is 70 and aging. And the ghost towns the highway left behind are drawing the world to their doorsteps. The mother road doesn't really die, it just changes what it carries. Route 66 turns 100 in 2026, officially dead for 41 of them. But here's what a century of this road actually proves. You can decommission a highway, you can take down the signs, update the maps, and reroute the traffic. What you can't do is erase what the road meant to the people who built their lives along it. The ghost towns are the proof. Ruins, state parks, dispensaries, neon signs glowing over empty deserts. The mother road leaves something behind everywhere it goes. Subscribe for more videos like this one. See you next time.